Well, got ourselves off to a late start this morning, folks. Sorry about the delay, but the technical goblins got me today again. But yeah, stay persistent. Panicked just a little bit, and then called the people that know a lot more about this stuff than I do. Got straightened out, and here we are. A little bit late, but here we are. So yeah, I hope all is well with you. Might be some updates coming around, so be careful out there. I think that's what it is. I updated a couple of things here, and as usual at showtime, all the little bugaboos start to materialize. But yeah, we're gonna press forward anyways. Had a few things on my hit list to talk about. Hope y'all are doing well. Happy February 8th. We're a week into the month of February already. It has been quite cold up here in the Northeast, let me tell you. Um, Not climate change hysteria type of cold, but just, it's winter. It's kind of what happens in the winter: snow, ice, coldness, that type of thing. Yep, we got some of that. The last big storm probably got about 20 inches or so right here locally where I'm at. And just this week we had another little dusting. Probably most people probably got 4 or 5, 6 inches maybe. All pretty light stuff though. Pretty light snow. Wasn't all that heavy and wet yet, but it's nice when it melts a little at a time. And you get a few warm days that get up above freezing and a little melting action going on, and it relieves that surge in the spring. I have and do remember some springs out there, or we just kept getting walloped. It seemed like every week you got a 1 foot snowstorm, one on the other. And you really just barely get cleaned up from one, and you got a new layer on there. And what happened is, that kept right up into the spring, and it all of a sudden got warm, and it rained like hell. Came down, and the rain just took out all of that, other than little ice blocks here and there from compacted snow, and even some of those shrunk. But the instant contribution to the ground, and the problem with that is although snow can act as an insulator and keep the frost from going deep into the ground sometimes, but there's still a frost in the ground nonetheless. So when this happened and the water was unable to percolate into the soil and replenish the local groundwater tables, it melted. The rain hit the snow, it melted, it hit the surface, which was frozen, and it just all dumped on the low areas. It was a mess. So that type of thing can happen if the snow doesn't melt a little bit at a time. But I think we're in pretty good shape. We don't have such a mound of snow out there right now that's unmanageable. If this amount of snow did get rained on, it'd be wet and muddy for sure. But I don't think it'd be catastrophic necessarily. But water's a powerful thing. I'll tell you that. I've learned a whole new respect for the force of moving water. That is for certain. It can cause a lot of damage, whether it's just in natural situations where I remember we used to go and grab a case of beer and go catfishing at the Connecticut River. And I remember going out there one time, and they were calling for some potential weather to come blowing through the area and up the valley, but it wasn't really targeted for us. So we didn't say, let's go. We'll be okay if it rains a little, no big deal. So we went and grabbed our beer and our fishing gear, and we head down, and there was a couple places to enter. And then it was all undercut banks and bramble and brush and briars like you wouldn't believe. You just couldn't get through it, which is why people came down through the trails like they did. Water was low, all right, and the storms hit, but they hit up in Vermont. And here we are. We brought tents and stuff. We were there to fish all night and, get up and leave in the morning. And I'm sitting there half drunk still in back in my partying days. And the water just sounded different. When you sit there and you fish all night long and you get the sound of the river and it's just that constant background, it sounded different. And it was different, all right. It was because it was about ready to come right in the tent with us. The water rose in the river so rapidly because, of course, the torrential rains and downpours were up in Vermont, and the watersheds all dumped into the river, and the river rose, and it just all hit us. We weren't expecting it, and you want to see a couple white boys scrambling through the brush, man. I'll tell you what. Oh, we lost a lot of our fishing gear. The tent gone, but it rose so damn high, it pushed us right up into the brush. We didn't have the opportunity to pick up everything and run it up the trail again. It can happen quick. And I've seen other situations with laws being like they are. Oftentimes, the government wants to come in and say they're the hero and the do-gooders in a situation. Reintroducing wolves, we saw what happened there. Here in Massachusetts, I've talked to people from other states. Like in Maine and in Vermont and New Hampshire. These are very forested areas, and a lot of hunting and trapping and stuff goes on. in states like, and all over, even down the South, all over the place. And I've asked people, I said, if you could, who were seasoned trappers, and I asked them, I said, if you could trap anywhere, just be allowed to go and find game and trap it, where would you go? And a surprising number of people said Massachusetts. And it took me by surprise, as I just, I've hunted a lot, deer, pheasant, things like that. But, the trapping and things were not something that was quite as popular. And what they said is that when Massachusetts started, the animal rights activists started interfering with other people's property rights, beavers, they're rodents. They really are. They're just giant rodents that live in the water. And when they started passing laws that favored rodents and not favored hunters and trappers, we found areas out there speckled across the countryside. Any depression with a little bit of running water through it was susceptible to being a beaver impoundment. And what happens, and I saw this firsthand, where big government gets in and protects these animals and starts regulating their habitat now, because with a beaver, you have a big, huge wetland. That the Wetlands Protection Act likes to regulate and speak about, and your local conservation commission enforces. Well, now you've got all these new habitats and places that you are prohibited from doing certain activities on, sometimes any activities on. Yet they want you to hold the liability should there be any destruction. Again, I've seen, torrential downpours, major rainstorms that are problematic on a good day, but you add that to a hillside, and this, again, I'm pulling this right out of my direct past projects I've had to work on in municipalities as a conservation agent. And, one storm can, we had 3 beaver dams speckled up a hillside. One that dumped into the other, that dumped into the other. And we had an entire neighborhood underwater. Gravel several feet up the front doors of people's homes. I mean, it's stuff that could actually have killed people. Luckily, no one died in this. Roadways and driveways that were cut so deep from the running water that jumped the banks that, you could stand in it and it's over your head. Water moved all that in just an hour or two. But this, if you can imagine, out of 3 beaver impoundments up on that hillside, the lowest and the smallest breached an area that was probably about 8 or 10 feet long, where about maybe 10 to 12 inches of the top of it flopped off. Maybe 2 or 3 acre impoundment. That's what, along with the rainwater into this stream, that's what went down and devastated this neighborhood. Complete flooding and completely deuced right out. It was unbelievable, the amount of force and the amount of water that came down. And when I went back up there, one of those 3 pieces of property was privately owned. The other 2 was under the control of Fisheries and Wildlife. Yes, Fisheries and Wildlife. And I told them, you should come over here to our little sleepy little town, visit this neighborhood we're still digging out. And I'd like to think that we could maybe not have those beavers up there. Could we maybe get some trappers in there to control the situation? And they said, oh, those beaver dams are out in the woods, out in the middle of the woods. And I agreed. And it's funny how these things can happen, but something that's a mile or 2 away could be several miles away. It doesn't really matter when it's all connected hydraulically, and this was. Acres and acres and acres of water. What if the top one let go? All right, and something happened, and that top one was exceeded its capacity. The dam let go and dumped into the second one. Of course, it's already swelled up and about to exceed its capacity and takes the entire load of the one above it. and then dumps into the third one. Can you imagine? I don't think I'd be able to sit here and say that there was no loss of life in that particular incident. Probably wouldn't be the case. I mean, I saw houses, like I said, with gravel up their front door. Homes are beginning to go underwater. And this is moving water, running water, too. Well, I don't know how we got off on that tangent, but something to be aware of. You got property out there, you live in the country, or you don't, even if you live in urban areas, are prone to flooding. And the more surge in the rain that you have, the more likely that is. We're seeing now, and I've warned them, I'm on record telling these environmentalists and those that are pushing green energy, when they go and take over hilltops, you get the people down and say, oh, that mountain, that's a view shed. All right. And they go to town meeting and they say, oh, we don't want any development on this particular new visual corridor. We'll call it something fluffy like that. And they'll vote that person's property rights out of existence. Can't develop that. That's these people's view shed. That's collectively and socially wrong. You can't do that. I'm going to strip you of your wealth and distribute a little bit of it. How's that? And then a couple of years later, of course, they're paying a view tax because they got a beautiful mountain to look at. And in line with their mission statement from their regional planning commission, they're all about sustainable energy, and that'd be a perfect place for a windmill, right? So yes, let's speckle windmills across all these properties that we protected as view sheds, and for the environmental good and all this, that, and the other, blah blah blah. All right, we see how these things, the longevity and the problems associated with windmills. They'll chop up and kill eagles and birds of prey. They'll malfunction and catch on fire. And what happens when you catch a mountaintop on fire and it burns down? You remove the vegetation, all the live vegetation in its root system that was holding the mountain together. I told these people, eventually it'll happen. You're going to have a fire up here. You're going to have a fire because all you do-gooders had to have it your way and took this guy's rights. He can't go and build, houses for his family or something. Maybe he had a nice view that he wanted to enjoy, but you took that from him and you put a windmill in his place that's now caused a fire. And then there'll be a torrential downpour at some point, bound to happen, right? Of course, the news will say, oh, it's climate change and we got to take more of your rights. Look at this. This great hill where this windmill once stood is burnt down. Then it rained on it, and all the soil came down and killed all these people down below. Let's move, no more houses down there. All right? Your own climate change that you created caused these people at the bottom of the hill under the mudslide to die. So we're going to move you into little living cubicles along transit corridors in 15-minute cities. It'll be great. Near utopia. But yeah, I warned them. I said, you're going to create a situation up there where you're supposedly protecting it for the good of the environment and future generations. And you put this unsightly windmill up in the middle of your view shed that catches on fire and burns everything down. All the wildlife, all of the vernal pools and the protected habitats, all burnt. And don't expect that it's all just going to sit there unvegetated and, make it through flood and rains, because that ain't going to happen. I don't know. These people are their own worst enemies. They really are. Your average property owner is not going to do anything to devalue their property. If there's a better way, and someone comes up to them, hey, you know what? There's a better way of going about plowing your fields. All right, contour plowing. Back in the day, they used to plow up and down, up and down, up and down. And of course, the wind and the rain, when it hit it, would wash all the topsoil down from the high spots down into the low spots. That old areas of what helped create the Dust Bowl. So yeah, once the farmers realize, hey, there is a better way. There's a more economical way. There's a way that will actually improve the fertility of our soils, and they'll adopt it. We're going to stop letting government step in anywhere near our property rights. We already know, if you look at the first plank of the Communist Manifesto, is to abolish private property rights. So don't think that for a moment they're ever, and by they I mean like mostly the progressives that took over the Democrat Party, other actual open admitted communists and socialists and things, they are never going to stop. They hate you and your Constitution, and they are never, ever going to stop undermining and just whittling away and eating away at property rights everywhere. What are examples of that erosion? It's almost endless. Dog license. The days of you just saying, I want a dog, and getting a dog are over. Not without an anointment from government. You got to have a license. And to have that license, you got to send them to the dog version, the big pharma, get them all boosted up. You ain't getting a license without, paying homage to big pharma somehow, some way. Oh, hell no. When's the last time you did anything significant to your house? Put in a swimming pool, we're told, hey, you're having twins. All right, you need another bedroom. No. You're not doing that unless you go and get a permit. You turn a right into a revocable privilege with those things, Looks like everything's going smooth for a change. This morning got off to a rocky start, though. I apologize for the late start this morning. It was more than an hour late. That's all right. I'm gonna make it. We're gonna make it. Everything's gonna be fine. Here's what's on my hit list. That nasty, wicked woman, New York Mayor Kathy Hochul, has made the state of New York the 13th state in this nation to openly euthanize its members, its citizens. They've adopted the Medical Aid in Dying Act, MAD, no doubt, is the acronym. Right in Canada's footprints. And we look now at what's going on up there. I mean, the government's role, first of all, and the most fundamental, we got to stop wallowing into the weeds so quickly about the details of the right to die and governments, how they should help that. And we got to look at just the fundamental purpose of government here in the United States. And the hell with what's going on in the other parts of the world. Certainly learn by their bad examples, but, this is America, America first. What is expected of our public servants? And government was instituted of, by, and for the people. And almost in its entirety is to protect us and to protect the sanctity of life. And man, have we so let that erode away? The government is endorsing and cooperating and in partnership with euthanizing its own citizens. At no point should that be happening. And we've, I think that's why they're so frantically, why they're pushing it so rapidly right now here in the States. And this is all only coming from those progressive mongrels. And the blue states are pushing this crap. But let's look at Canada. We were all appalled and said, I can't believe that they're suggesting that and this will never pass. And it did. Said, oh, no, they'll never do crazy things like that. This is only going to be for the most worst and most extreme and the worst situations. But no, it wasn't limited to that. There's people now where there's really nothing even wrong with them. There's folks that, I remember one guy, he was handicapped. He had disabilities that prohibited him from working most jobs. And he lived in a place that wasn't very glorious. He was with a lot of other people in the same situation, but he had a roof over his head. And something happened where a lot of the people in the building had to go, and he just had no place to go. He was alive. He wasn't in great health, but he was alive. He loved his life. But he knew, as difficult as it was for him to try and get by with the handouts that he had, how difficult that already was. What would be his reality if he had to live in the street homeless? And of course, the government and all the systems, the Soviet that's around all of this stuff, all the agencies of government, in healthcare, in social work, all of them chirping and harmonizing the same thing, start pushing this guy to, well, we can just do the assisted suicide. And, we understand, and depression's real, and if your quality of life isn't going to be acceptable to you, there is this option. And that they just start pushing people, every little imperfection in life, just to be sad and depressed. Yeah, I agree. I'd be depressed too. You got a horrible life, but you don't have to live like that. You can kill yourself, and we'll help you. All right, but we got these little pods. You see it up there? They got commercials now about these little suicide pods. You hop in the thing, you kill yourself, and the pod becomes your casket, and they just reload a new pod on there. Isn't that sick? Seriously, isn't that sick? Unbelievable. So that's what's going on here in New York. Now, this is lucky 13. It's the 13th state in this nation to do such a thing. And again, everywhere from government, all of the organs of government, the individuals that voted for this and put this into place and recommended this, they should just lose their jobs. Doctors, how can a doctor take a Hippocratic oath to relieve suffering? Okay, to actually relieve suffering, to do no harm. And this is like exactly the opposite. Killing them isn't relieving suffering. Oh, hey, Doc, my son fell off his bike and broke his arm. Oh, well, come on right over here. We've got a suicide pod that's just the right size for an 11-year-old. Please get right in. We got a drive-through service now. Just toss your loved one right through the window here, and we'll put him right in a pod. Whatever. You got a migraine headache? We got a pod that'll suit you. Right? Whatever little problem you have. You don't like the color of your hair? You're a little sad and depressed about it? Yeah, come on. Let's go. We'll suit you up, size you up for a suicide pod. And of course, the government will come in with subsidies to help those less privileged. I mean, it would be nice, right, to just go up and down the streets, all these embarrassing pictures that are showing up. Look at the trash. Speaking of New York, under moron damn commie, you're getting an early taste of where New York is really visibly going to go. I mean, it's been going downhill for a while. A lot of celebrities and all of those wealthy people that used to be attracted to that great city are fleeing. They're fleeing. And what you're seeing now, the homeless out there, Mayor Wu, we're going to talk about that. Wretched woman. Her and Governor Healy, they hate this country. Absolutely hate this country and the Constitution. They are a constitutional menace. They don't even pretend to be observing it and to fall under its restraints. They're acting with impunity. But look at New York. If you walked up and down the streets now, and it's just disgusting. The snow, you can't just plow snow. The snow removal is hampered because it's trash. Snow removal, for those of you that don't know, you got to do something with it. Sometimes out in the country, you can just plow it off to the side and it'll eventually melt. You can't do that in the cities. It literally gets, plowed to the side temporarily so that traffic can get through and emergency vehicles and such. but it continues long after the storm. And it's in the form of payloaders and dump trucks where they pick up the snow, and the quickest, closest access to a river or a valley or whatever where they can dump this stuff. And they got to try to hope and pray that it's relatively clean. That's why there's trash cans put out all over the place in the cities, really hoping that you'll use the trash cans, because you don't, in the summer, you don't want trash just floating around everywhere, because it will ultimately get you sick. In the winter, you have this issue. You can't, I don't know if you can imagine what the rivers and ponds would look like, just scooping up that snow with all that trash in it and just dumping it. And then, of course, everyone be upset at the DPW and those. No, it's the derelicts and the homeless and the illegal aliens that are doing this. You can't wonder, oh, where's all this trash coming from? Who'd have thunk it? You know, we got how many tens of millions of people in the streets, living in the streets now? And then you go and listen to these people. I'm telling you, the criminals here in Massachusetts. Mayor Wu, absolute criminal. Mayor Governor Healy, even when she was Attorney General, she was a menace then. Talking about a state that needs voter integrity help. Man. But with Wu, that cretin, she recently signed in a whatever you want to call it, law, signed an executive order here in Massachusetts that banned ICE pretty much from working on any state or public property. You know, that they couldn't use parking lots and roadways and any government buildings or anything like that. It was very hostile and pushing back on ICE, and in protection of. It went on to try to use, like she's done. She's in this case, she's violated Title 8, Section 1324, quite directly, multiples of times, in multiples. There's actually several different charges in there that she is satisfied. And most egregious is when she takes over community buildings, places where other parents are trying to keep their kids off the streets, doing something productive and good, are now the criminals. They're the ones that are going to go to jail. If you go in there anywhere near these illegals, whatever they are, where they come from, Haiti, Guatemala, it doesn't matter. Somalia, there's an estimated, I think it's 8,000 in Boston proper, Somalians, known illegals in Boston proper, around 8,000. Another couple thousand that are maybe 15 minutes from me, 10 or 15 minutes from me right now, over in the city of Springfield. And that's just Somalians, let alone the Haitians and the others. And the laws in the state and things that have been incorporated, the executive orders here, are all in favor of those that are committing the crimes. She's violated this by housing them, transporting them, giving them food and shelter, enticing. It's a crime to entice them to come here and break the law. And they've done this over and over again. We've got written proof. We brought the receipts. It's happening. They're using the NGOs. No surprise. It's not unknown. It's just not untalked about. So, well, here was the proper reaction to Mayor Wu. And that was for ICE to go out there the very next day and arrest illegal aliens right in her own hometown, right in her own area. Where the hell is it? Let's get it right. You know, the Roslindale area, right where Mayor Wu was from. Oh, and she's so funny. You listen to her little press releases once in a while. She gets out there and, you know, spouting off about how brave the protesters are and their right to free speech and all this, that, and the other. Yet when Mayor Wu is trying to mask you all up, shut your businesses down, take your kids from you and put them into the perverted government school systems and foster care. You know, when people went to her house to protest, she went and passed laws just so people wouldn't protest her. Talk about a big advocate of free speech. The political left, although they harp about and are constantly screeching about free speech, are probably the least versed in understanding it really at all. Because they wouldn't say that they are such advocates of free speech and then deploy what is essentially the heckler's veto in almost everything that they do. All right, so if I get up, I were to go, on the other side of the street, they're out there having their anti-ICE protest about something on the other side of the street. I go on the opposite side, and I start talking about how that's a national security issue. And I just lay out my case. I bring my own signs, and I've got my own supporters that show up. They will come over with sirens and pots and pans, and they will do anything and everything that they can not to articulate anything. They won't, even if they were to cross the street and come over and engage me, and that's all well and good. Intellectually, all well and good. No aggression, no heckler's veto. And that's what that is. When you get there beating pots and pans and blasting sirens, when I'm trying to voice my views, is a heckler's veto. That's not free speech. That actually is the opposite. You are prohibiting others from hearing that speech. It isn't about my right to say it. It's about everyone's right to be able to hear it. Right? If it's about me just talking and hearing my own voice, I could go out in the woods and be satisfied and talk to myself every day, everywhere, and be satisfied, right? So it's not really about the free speech. If you look at it closely and again, more systemically, it's about the right to be heard or to hear. I may want to hear somebody, and a mob comes up and prohibits that person from speaking and articulating his views that I wanted to hear. That person can go home and say all those things he was going to say on his soapbox. And, if it was about the words being said, all well and good. He went and said those words. He'll sleep good that night. But it's not going to do a damn thing for me. When I say, I wonder what he had to say. I wonder what information he had that I don't already have. That's the loss. My grandfather always told me that it costs you nothing to listen to a man. He may be the biggest nitwit in the world, and 99% of the things that he says it could be wrong, it could be lies, whatever. But that 1%, if you happen to be there and you happen to be listening, that 1% will enrich you just a little bit. It'll make your life a little bit easier, your job a little bit easier. You'll know something that you didn't, and it's just a positive thing for you. And it only costs you, what, to listen? We've all got our limits when the political left gets up there, banging pots and pans and screeching and, all that type of thing. You don't have to listen to that. We got the freedom to walk away. What do? Sit there with your own pots and pans? And now you just both, I don't get it. But yet this is what the political left does. And Mayor Wu, she had to pass laws saying to try to criminalize people that would go to her house and wave their signs and say, hey, there's the woman that's pushing this untested vaccine on everybody. This is the woman who has no right to be closing down stores and churches, yet she is. Why is Mass and Cass, why is that area such an infestation of illegals and crime? Needles everywhere. Decent people trying to walk through the neighborhood getting mugged and assaulted by people who don't even belong in this country. Preventable. All these crimes and assaults that are happening on people, the internet is full of articles about American citizens who have been brutally attacked and killed by illegal aliens. And every single one of them, every single one, without fail, in my estimation, is preventable. Right? It's just simply preventable. It didn't have to happen. The Bidenista regime clearly opened the floodgates. They did everything they could to get these people in here in hopes that they would just vote for them, that it would swell their districts. When you get to understand and you keep listening to the show and plugging in, you're going to realize that this is the depth of what they do is, man, it's unbelievable. I mean, they wring the most out of these illegals. They really don't care. And I think they're starting to realize that because they were treated like cattle throughout this whole process. They herded them around. Yeah, they got some, they were fed and given new sneakers and phones and all kinds of stuff like that. But, they're starting to feel the cage doors are starting to close. And they're being used right now like, those states that have in Minnesota. They're having growing pains. They're bursting at the seams. These people have been such a menace, displacing local communities and local families, ran for the hills. They said the government just allowed illegals in here. They've taken over. Police don't even want to go into many of our neighborhoods. And these families, they're leaving. It's like New York City is hemorrhaging good people, good businesses. This is not the New York City, that famous city that's known worldwide. Man, what an embarrassment it's going to be now. Mayor Wu belongs in prison for what she's done. But good for ICE. They went in, she signed the executive order one day. The next day, ICE was not only in New York, they were in her town arresting illegals. Good on them. Good on them. And Mayor Wu, she's inciting violence. She's openly admitted to violations of 1324 and should just be arrested. These people shouldn't feel comfortable walking the streets because, someday someone's going to step up out of one of her press conferences somewhere and place her under arrest. I brought this up before. Citizens arrest is legal in, I think, all 50 states. You got to go and look up the processes and procedures, but in most cases, the person has to either actively be committing a felony or an assault that could lead to death or serious injury, have evidence and known to have committed a felony. And when you place them under arrest, you can only use as much force as necessary to take them into custody. And once they are in custody, you got to bring them directly to law enforcement. So, in the long run, and this is what I'm going to be telling my elected officials and public servants, is at first I'm going to let them know I'm not happy and instruct them to begin enforcing the immigration laws. So they can't say that I didn't tell them. So I'm going to voice the obvious. I don't want you to interfere with other agencies that are trying to get the illegals out of this nation. Not just the bad ones, not just the murderers and the felons and the child rapists, not just those, but everyone around them too. All right, if you've got to go into a housing complex and say, I think we've got 3 of them that live here that are wanted for murder. All right, you go in and find those 3, and you look around you, and there's 73 others who are illegals. You don't know what crimes they may or may not have committed, but you know they're illegal or suspect that they are. Round them all up. If you're an American citizen, let them go. If you're not, you're processed. That's the way that should go. So yeah, first, let's send that signal. You'll get more of what you incentivize, right? So if the illegal community, because they have their own community now, not like the white community, the black community, the illegal community, they have their own community. And they do blend in with some others too, but they have their own community nonetheless. And it becomes known that ICE and government and local people like me, that are just not going to let their family and loved ones be victims are out looking for and finding, arresting and processing illegals who have committed serious crimes, and then those that are around them. Okay, those that are around them, harboring a criminal like that. I mean, stack it right up like they do on us. You know how it is. You go out and you stub your toe anywhere. You got a bad light on your car. Well, we'll get you for speeding, reckless driving, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And if you just plead down and pay a little extortion fee, we'll drop this other stuff. That's the way the system works. So, yeah, everything that they could have possibly have done, stack it right up there on everyone around them. Not just the illegal alien wanted murderers, but those that would harbor and feed and shelter and transport illegal alien wanted murderers. All right, they don't belong here. And every single one that we get out, repatriate them right back to where they came from. All these times where we hear about drunk driving, in these other nations, they don't care about your licensing needs and wants of government here in the United States. They get here and they know how to start a car. They're going to drive it, whether they've just drank a bottle of vodka or not. They don't care. They don't care. So, yeah, when people's loved ones are killed in horrible car accidents, and you find out that the one that smashed into him was an illegal alien, drunk off his rocker, it's preventable. That's where I say it's preventable. And everyone involved, and let's think about this. Let's say there was just one illegal alien, and this has happened in reality, in a car accident, and wipes out an entire family. And look at that illegal alien and the day-to-day, what he did and who he associated with, who helped him, where did he go and what did he do, and who was around him at that time. And how many people, bad people that are part of this bad Soviet network I keep telling you about, how many people and entities would be ensnared in helping that illegal be where he was at that time to wipe out that family? Where did he live? All right, did someone employ him? Is he employed somewhere? Because you can't hire a known illegal. If you know they're in this country illegally, anything that you do, you can't transport them. You can't give them a ride from point A to point B. I'll give you a ride, but that's all I'm going to do is just give you. You've violated federal law just giving them a ride. All right, I'm not going to give you a ride, but I'll bring you, some food every day so you and your family can have something good to eat. No, you just violated the law. If you're in government, you say, here, I've taken over this community center, go to this address, and you'll get everything. You'll get like an Obama phone, but it'll like a Biden phone. You'll get a place to sleep. You can rape your own children and we won't prosecute you? This is happening in Massachusetts. Those people go to jail. They're felonies. These are all felonies. And what entices them? Look at the, you go to progressive states and cities and look at the flyers that are around. And I'll tell you, they're getting good at this too, where government will create flyers that are by complete fraudulent, non-existent groups and entities, their names. They just completely make up the name, but put the information on where you can go to sign up for whatever, where you can go to download a new, whatever. How to get transported. How to get IDs. These people that helped every single illegal alien. And I've always been a big supporter of small business and the blue-collar American worker. Always, always, always. But if you are part of that economic system we have here, we're all gears in the machine, and the quality of work, American pride in our skills and our abilities, our own abilities, have confidence in our own abilities. And that greatness can be achieved in the people that work for you. They want to work for you. They turn out a good product or service. They're paid well. And the whole economy moves forward. You and your part, doing the best you can, being compensated the most that you can. And it grows and strengthens together. The corruption, the monopolies that form, and most monopolies are not because of lack of regulation, it's because it's too much. They've regulated a loophole that gives a certain segment a clear advantage, and they begin to monopolize. But, these businesses that would hire illegals, if you're a small business too, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot of the big corporate and nonprofit, that type of level of corruption is numerically probably the most noteworthy, from a dollar and cent point of view. But, the cost even more beyond the dollar and cents is the small businesses that still do that really are cutting into the jobs for locals, jobs for kids even. Sad to say, but, a lot of the high school kids that graduate, not that graduating a government high school means anything at all anymore. But, when they're first cut loose into the world at 18, got one of those high school diplomas, there's actually, when they say, there's no work for me, it's not just because people sometimes won't hire you because you pierced your entire face and tattooed your entire face, shaved and or tinted your hair purple. It's not just because of that, although those things do contribute. It's because the jobs really aren't there. There's enough of, farmers and builders. I've gone on to web project sites before, and here I am with like 1/4 Polish in my heritage. I'm Polish, Irish, and French Canadian, half French Canadian. But I walked on the websites, project sites, building sites, and subdivisions, where the whole crew up there doing the roofing and the framing, all of them are Polacks. And all they can do is say the word boss man and point to a trailer. I can't ask them anything. Where's your, can I see your permit for this or that, or can I see whatever? They cannot communicate with me. All of them from Poland, speaking thick Polish accents. And, I know they're not citizens here. And you bump into one once in a while if there's someone who's actually immigrating here, got a job quick and is at work and learning English and everything all at once, great. If you're acclimating in and working your way into the fabric of America, that's okay. But when you walk onto a job site and everyone there, all right, you might have one guy who can speak enough broken English, who is the general foreman, if you will. He's the intermediate that talks to the bosses, and then he tells the workers what they got to do. It's not because he's got great skills. It's only because he learned some broken English. But it doesn't, which Somalians here are sexy and in the news, noteworthy too. And round every last one of them up, arrest them, and out of here. All right. And if they committed crimes, you serve your sentence, and then you're out. But the border's been open to everybody. The Chinese have flooded in here. The European. There's all kinds that came across the border. They're not in the majority, but the border was wide open. Just, for context, remember that. Is that our border was open to anyone who wanted to come here. I'm convinced we've got terrorist cells just sitting and waiting. Of all sorts. Just sitting and waiting for the word. What else have I got here? Super Bowl. I could not possibly care less about the Super Bowl and the NFL and their typical faggotry. They just lost it with me in the derelicts from Hollyweird. They can all kiss my star-spangled ass. Seriously, if you're from Hollyweird, you're supposed to entertain me. Go up and act. Do your movies. And then shut your friggin' pie hole. Entertain me. That's the only reason that I would go to your website, go watch a movie of yours. I don't go to the movies. Yeah, I decided a couple of years ago, and I only went because my wife wanted to go, and that was the only reason. And it was a horrible experience. Cost way too much, and for a bunch of people who hate this country. These actors from Hollywood that hate this country and hate basically everything that I stand for, all that I like, they hate. And I tried to rationalize in my head, why would I pay this much money for one of their products? And I won't do it. I won't go to the movies anymore. These people are really lost in themselves. And I just won't let them profit from me for a gaggle of nitwits that just hates this country like they do. Things I've heard out of them, and they're all like this, the Super Bowl, like shit flies on shit. Everyone who wants a little notoriety and wants their picture up there for even just a moment, you got them tripping all over themselves to do a little cameo in one of their commercials. I don't know. The real things in life, you don't buy because you're inspired from an ad from Pfizer or something like that. I don't know. What did I find over here? You want to say no to the Super Bowl? Just decided maybe you're going to rearrange your sock drawer today. You can do almost anything. Seriously. You just don't participate. They're not going to get my not a penny from me. I'm not going to watch it. And it's all perverted anyways. They've completely, year after year after year. I haven't actually watched a full Super Bowl in some time. And even when this year, I'm going to try to avoid it pretty much entirely. You can't help it. You go on social media and little clips and little segments here and there are going to float in front of you. Grammys this week, all those. Oh, jeez, I don't know. But yeah, when you're going to boycott something, people don't realize what a boycott actually is. They say, I'm just not going to buy your coffee anymore. I'm just, I'm not going to shop there anymore or watch your whatever. You got to go and hit the advertisers too. That's what they don't want to hear is your advertisers calling them up saying, I got a deluge of calls and flaming emails from people that are divesting of our product because of our association with you. All right. So Jen Spark, we send an email say, I could not believe that you're affiliated with the perversions witnessed at this year's Super Bowl. This disgusting entity that has such disdain for this great country. I am no longer going to patronize your service or your product, and I'm going to suggest the same of my friends and loved ones. We are no longer going to support you because you do not support us and of your association with this horrible, horrible NFL organization. Who else? Telemundo. Kiss my ass. Paramount Pictures. Pucker up. All right. Anthropic. You know what to do. Amazon Echo. Kiss those rosy red cheeks. Volkswagen. T-Mobile. Comcast, Xfinity, Dunkin' Donuts, Ring, Hims, Levi's, They took a break for so many years too. I think it was 20 years, and they came back for the to join the gender cult in this year's Super Bowl. Oh, sorry, Levi's. I won't be buying any Levi's anytime soon. Yep, DraftKings. Oh, what else we got here? Wegovy, Google. Well, what's not to love there? We expected that, right? Let's see who else. Fanatic Sportbook, Meta, State Farm, Wix, Toyota, Rocket Mortgage, Cadillac, Blue Square Alliance. Yeah, Squarespace, Michelob. I used to drink Michelob. Yeah. Budweiser, Bud Light. They're not through picking their nose in public. Oh, hell no. So, yeah, this is what you want to do. Uber Eats, contact them and say, yeah, you know, you guys are affiliated with some real dank people, child predators, and just sick cultural Marxists, and I'm no longer going to buy your product. I've had enough. This was what tipped me over the edge. You know, because then I want Budweiser to say, you know, as much as we enjoyed some of the ads that we've done at Super Bowl over the years, I think we're going to take a break for a while and divest of those things. They start to collapse when faith, like the American dollar, no longer backed by gold, is backed by the good faith and trust, integrity of the people. In other words, how much we trust our money is what underpins its value. And the dollar is collapsing, all right? It's because people don't have trust in it. The Chinese are not going to keep buying worthless American bonds. They're just not. Nobody is. The petrodollar, that's why we went into Iraq. I think literally like 4 hours after Saddam said he's no longer going to trade Iraqi dinars for oil futures in petrodollars. That was it. The bombs were flying. Bombs were flying. No, but that's the way these boycotts work. You know, you don't just tell the, Roger Goodell and find him on Twitter and say, I'm not watching the Super Bowl. You guys, a bunch of a gender cult, little Marxism. It's disgusting and I won't do it. I don't really care. Because he just wants to cash the checks from these advertisers. They want him to keep coming back. It doesn't matter. As long as the money flows. And what's dominating the coffers of those at the NFL, I'm sure, is the progressives. They're putting huge money into this. And it's all about money. Don't think that the NFL loves you and wants you to sit down at night and once a year enjoy a wonderful football game. They want to propagandize you and soften your head with this crap, and based on the instructions of the highest bidder. It's not the bottom line. And for them, for the NFL, up to now, being woke is profitable. All right, your child may need to have his penis cut off because someone in his life, possibly a purple-haired public school teacher, said that maybe you're a girl. Huh. No, you snuck into your mom's room and put lipstick on. Oh, that must mean that you're a girl. We can start that transition. We don't have to tell mommy and daddy. And when you start supporting that type of stuff, right, this pedophilia and this child predator stuff, that's a type of stink. That's a type of ooze that you get on you and you just can't get off. These people really, totally piss me off. To knowingly use children, and this is what pisses me off about the progressives. They are not afraid to use children to get their way. Look at the marches out that they had, the anti-ICE protests. It's all scheduled ahead of time, day off from school. The teachers through instructions from the teachers union in cooperation with, co-conspired together to take your child out of public school. All right, where, parents say, oh, I'm sending my child to school today. I expect they're going to be in that building. It's going to be secure. They're going to be safe. The teachers are going to teach, and there'll be no distractions, and they'll be safe. No, not on these days. These days, the children are brought to an area where individuals are run over, they're shot, they're set on fire, they're stabbed. I mean, I could go on. There's a lot of horrific things that happen at these anti-ICE riots. All right, in the school unions, the teachers' unions in the schools, just got through bringing your children there. You should be beside yourself furious. I mean, really, what has to happen for you to pull your kids out of the schools right now? Seriously, anyone want to jump in the text chat here? And what do you love about your government school? How have they treated your child and protected your child? How have they been enriched? Do they know their state capitals? Do they know anything about the founding of this country? Do they know anything? Does your school even teach algebra anymore? They're changing the standardized test now, so if your kid can come in and just wipe the friggin' drool and spittle off their chin, they'll graduate. What the hell? The schools have actually politicized your children. And I saw an article. I don't know. I could not have restrained myself. This woman driving along and went by a protest and saw her own child out there, a 16-year-old boy. And she stopped and chewed out the teacher for taking her son out of class, putting him in jeopardy at these things, and politicizing his school lessons and the tax dollars that she spent for her to be teaching them to read and write and do math. And the boy, the child, said that he wanted to be there and it was his right. It was his right, all right, a 16-year-old boy telling his mother that it was his right to go out there and protest a federal agency. And he didn't want to go home with his mother. Usually moms can grab a handful of something and drag their kid along and let them know that they're in some real deep crap as soon as they get home, and get them in the car and take them and be gone. But I guess that couldn't happen. The mom did not take the child, but wow. You wonder, was there a dad in the picture? They've destroyed the institution of marriage in this country to the point where there's probably not even a dad. Because I know if mom, some 16-year-olds are pretty big. And if I can't persuade him to just get in the car under his own power and under his own will, maybe dad can. Because back when I was a boy, if I was pushing the limit with my mother and my grandmother, and they said, if you don't do what you're told, your father or your grandfather is going to find out about this. And that's usually, it was plenty enough to snap me into shape. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Any of you moms out there, does that matter? So you better hope I don't tell dad the way you're talking to me, what you're doing. I don't know. I don't think so. Parents, they don't even give a crap. I was surprised that this mother actually stopped and pulled over and told her kid's teacher off, which they needed. A teacher should be gone. Every teacher out there that did that, just to be clear with you, all right, you've got to understand this. What they did is dangerous, is completely against the mission statement of what the school is actually there for. I'm serious. They're not supposed to be taking your kid off that property to go to a political protest. Don't get it. Pull your kids out of those horrible places, please. Oh. Washington Post is shrinking and withering. Hey, they just chopped a whole bunch of departments, sports and other commentary and all kinds of. I mean, they really shrunk down. There was a lot of employees from the Washington Post were let go. Even some of the executive officers the very next day after announcing all the layoffs, one of the executives there just resigned. So there seems to be a noteworthy implosion of the Washington Post going on currently. And what's funny is Bezos actually says it could be from the lack of pushback and critical pushback on MAGA and Trump. I mean, talk about monumental Class A gaslighting. Is the paper has done just the opposite. They have been attacking and putting spins on everything that they could in opposition to Trump right along. They're failing because people are divesting themselves of the lies. That's all. No one, it's like I said, things wither and go away when you stop funding them. You may see that some of the traditional advertising to the Washington Post, since they want to be so woke and want to spin things to the point that their written word has no value. That this was self-inflicted. But the good news is I don't think it's just the Washington Post. Other newspapers, and they've been kind of struggling a bit for right along because of the internet and access to the internet. They've all made that transition to the internet as well in selling internet subscriptions to try to augment and supplement what used to be, paid newspaper deliveries right to their home. And they had to try to modernize and keep up. And they've tried that. But the internet being what it is, you can actually go out a la carte style and find a lot of information out there and subscribe to it and invest in that knowledge. And there's nothing they can do about it. You're going to see a withering and a shrinking and a divestment. The mainstream media, their reputation as political whores and prostitutes is unavoidable. Unavoidable. The progressive left will still, buy some ads and they get in their echo chamber, and that's what it's becoming, is more of an echo chamber where no other opposing opinions are even to be found anymore. So that appeal to your average person is gone, and they're leaving, and that's what you're seeing. And it will get to a point where the only ones there are going to be the echo chamber of the communists, and it's not going to sustain itself. It'll finish collapsing. No one will invest in what they have, what their product is. Their intellectual product is almost without worth. I like it. I like the new change that's taking place there. It's breaking that. Man, people's minds were just attached to it's the news. They couldn't lie. They really developed that opinion. They couldn't just put that on TV. That they can't just lie to the people. Well, yes, they do. They absolutely do. And no one likes being lied to. And when you figured out that you've been lied to, and I'm saying when you figure out you've been lied to, not when someone else says, "Oh, don't believe that guy. He's just a doo-doo head, and don't believe him." And people, "Oh, okay, all right. Everyone else is chirping the same thing, so I'll chirp that song too." But when you convince yourself that person actually lied to you, and you go, "Oh, yeah, it appears that they actually did." All right, when that happens, you've got them forever. They're never gonna trust like they did before, and we got them. When you get people that think government is benevolent and doing a particular thing because they said they're in favor of diversity or equity or inclusion, And then it turns out to all be a lie. BLM. That's a hard pill for those that have got all those BLM T-shirts. Realize that their founders tucked it to them pretty damn good. They took in millions, bought themselves mansions, and did nothing. Didn't put a single black kid through college. Didn't do nothing. They just stole from you. Fucking sick. Absolutely sick. And the press, they go right along with it. I've got a very short fuse when it comes to those that would willingly and knowingly go out and pervert the minds of others. I mean, it's such a moral, intellectual intrusion, a violation, a personal violation for all these networks and mainstream media prostitutes to go out in harmony and distort your view, your understanding. All right, that's a better, not view, but your understanding of all the current events that affect your life. I do believe in the tool of democracy, but it requires, and I say this over and over again because you got to know this. It requires two things: a fully informed public, and propaganda is not informed. You've actually got to do what our founders expected us to do, and to exercise constant vigilance, to be forever researching and just wanting to know, demanding to know what they're doing and how they're doing it. Because then you can be informed. We can sit around the water cooler, have those talks, and like they used to do. They show up at the tavern at night. It wasn't always just to get liquored up and play poker. They talked about the politics of the day. There was a thirst for information. There was. Because when you have a fully informed public, we've been able to educate ourselves on the facts of the matter, on the candidates before us who are wishing to be our public servants. And then you have integrity in your voting system where you know that your vote counts. It counts, and it counts one time. That no one who's not eligible to vote is going to come in and taint and dilute your vote. Because every time you let an illegal come in who has no right to vote in anything, yet their vote is cast and it is counted, it dilutes yours or cancels it right out. There's a way you got to look at it, because that's exactly what's happening. So, does democracy, the tool, serve us well right now? And I say no, it's very unhealthy. It's not only not a help, it is actually dangerous, because there's people that think it works, that thinks we're fully informed when we aren't. We keep, we're just, they dump millions of pages of Epstein on us, and we're still muddling through that, and will be for quite some time. You know, what does that tell you? We got a very slim chance of righting the ship here without real civil unrest. I see it coming. I see the collapses of all sorts, whether it's, our money, our dollar floundering. The globalists out there are desperate to lock us in to a digital ID and attach our bank accounts and everything to that. Complete control. Dollars and euros. All of those currencies of the world they don't matter. You're all going to be global citizens with their digital ID. I think there's going to be a problem in the streets pretty soon. This anti-ICE stuff is the same group. They were Occupy movement. They would, it's the same old thing. BLM, Antifa, all the same kind of group. They just call themselves something new and riot about something new. Carry some different signs that are printed for them. That's all. But they're eventually going to go and push. It's happening. We're seeing horrible things happen to people that, oh man, I don't know, that just don't deserve uh, to be treated brutalized like that. And we're by allowing this, you get more of what you incentivize, right? Didn't I just say that? I meant it. You know, if we allow people to get up and openly say, I don't want you actually enforcing our border laws. I'm going to interfere with your ability. I know that most of America pays taxes for protecting our rights and protecting our border, to enforcing our nation's laws. But they've decided they're not going to, and that if that they're going to do everything in their power to interfere with what we have already set in place. What is law in this nation? One of the few things the federal government is supposed to do is to set forth a fair process of immigration into this country. And they've done that. And then they're supposed to keep an eye on the border and make sure that smooth process is in fact taking place. That people can accurately and fairly apply for citizenship and naturalization. There's no guarantees. There's no guarantees. We could say no. We could say no. Oh, we could say we're all good. We're stopping temporarily. We're starting to lose control. There's a problem here that we've got to deal with first, and then we'll reopen. But there's no guarantees. You don't just flood here. You don't just walk over the border. And that's what they've done. Not just walk over the border. They've done it with help and organization from people who have yet to be charged and sentenced and put in jail. There's no remedy. Bondi, Pam Bondi, monumental disappointment. Every bit as much of a disappointment as Bongino. That little man sat there spouting off on his podcast for months and months what a big tough guy is and how he would change things if he got in there with Trump. Oh, yes, we'd be on the right track, and those bad guys, oh, they don't, you wait till I get a hold of you. And he got in there, and he was like a deer in the headlights. Completely out of his league and just wet himself and could not possibly do anything that he said he was going to do. It just crumbled under pressure. And now he's back. It's almost, not almost, it is quite embarrassing to go listen to him shit talk you is what he's doing. He's bad mouthing everyone. Oh, you weren't there, and you watch his numbers, track his numbers. I think he's done for. And Pam Bondi, no one has been arrested. Just do your damn job. And stop being afraid of these people. You weren't put in there because the Trump administration's only got 4 years. We all knew that. We didn't expect you to go in and him and look for people to negotiate with and to make deals with and whatever. If some of that can take place in the background, some arm twisting, but you got to go in there like a communist wrecking ball and just start swinging for the fences. I don't understand why you're not announcing new arrests every single week. Load the system right up, impeach these judges. There's a lot of political judges in there that have violated the sanctity of our Constitution. They're a constitutional threat, a constitutional menace, a threat to the state, enemy of the state. Gotta go. But Pam Bondi, I don't know. How could you? She's just done nothing. Done nothing. Oh, what else is on my list? Oh, the Olympics. They're full of all their gender cult stuff, too. I'm not going to watch anything, any of the sports. And this would be my correspondence to those numbnuts. Is that you've fallen off the wagon, fallen for this gender cult stuff. I am not going to allow my children to watch this. Men are men, women are women. You've polluted this sport. It's no longer even remotely interesting from an entertainment point of view. I don't want to watch this. I now actively don't want to watch it. I used to like it, and then I was, kind of even indifferent sometimes. But now, I don't want to watch this. I don't want this on my television. I don't want my children seeing this. I'm blocking you on my remote control. And just tell them. Tell them you're going to tell their advertisers. Go and look up who advertises on the Olympics and contact them. And I saw that you were affiliated and paying sponsorship to and advertising to the perverts over at the Olympics. And tell them I'm also withdrawing my financial support for your company. And do that. Vote with your dollars. Don't call it a boycott, because they'll sue you and tell you you're interfering with commerce. Yep. Harris and AOC. That's been in social media and the news. They might be the Democrats' presidential ticket coming up. Yeah, you ask Kamala Harris, the world loves her. Oh, man. She tried, I guess, I didn't follow totally what's going on here. You can go back if you're interested to, but I guess she tried updating some of her social media pages or something to imply her run in 2028 and just got lambasted and mocked and everything. But I say go for it. Can you imagine that? Kamala Harris and AOC running for president and vice president as a ticket for the Democrats? Holy mackerel. I mean, it'd be nice if we could have, in this case, if you did that, and you could almost run anybody on the Republican side and, other third parties and whatnot. But if you could let Harris and AOC run and have complete voter integrity to where you actually know how many people supported and didn't support those two candidates. Because I find it valid information. I would like to know what percentage of the people in my state are communist pieces of shit, basically. All right, I want to know what's the real numbers. There's people that would vote for those two, no matter what they said. They could get up on stage and literally eat a baby and celebrate that they participated in the new abortion, and people would still vote for them. They'd make up excuses. These blue and purple-haired freaks of nature, these barren, I won't even say it, mental cases could not possibly go a day without saying, "Oh, I've just had a bad day." Oh, poor Kamala Harris. They'd say such mean things about her. She's just such a nice person. She loves you. And AOC, she got so much energy. She just wants everybody to be happy and have things. To take all the stuff from those rich people and give it to the people who are not rich. How nice is that? Yeah, I'd really like to know what the numbers are. Here in my state, I'll bet you probably between a quarter and a third of the people here are committed socialist and communist that would love to see this country fail. There's a portion who are dullards, basically, who just don't know their history, don't understand the attraction to having free stuff. They don't understand why the cheese is in the trap. What is the cheese for? I love cheese. It's my right to have cheese, they tell me. Huh. And so there's a lot that don't understand. Very similar to what happened in the founding of this country. It was about a third that were loyalist to the British. There was a third that demanded their liberty. And there was another third of the population that was probably just going to go with whoever won. They didn't know, or they were indifferent. They were just kind of caught up in it and all didn't feel like they had a lot of influence. They were seaweed in the tide. We can't be seaweed in the tide. Obviously, the progressives, all right, and progressive is code word for communists. Remember that. And the progressives have taken over an entire political party. That's the Democrat Party. But the Republicans are impotent to do anything against it. So that leaves it to the rest of us, the independents, which in my state, I think are 56% of the registered voters are unenrolled. They've already decided that the two parties have failed them. So I don't know. What do you think? Harris and AOC. Would you welcome that on the Democrat ticket? Would you? Anyone brave enough to hop up there and text chat? Yeah, I would. I'd let that happen. I absolutely would. It sucks. Like I say, we don't know. I mean, the integrity of our voting system is horrible. It's entirely possible that the results that are spit out of that system right now would actually elect people like that. Very possible. But you know what? The more people that vote, I keep saying this every election that we have, because there's so many people, and I understand the frustration. I get it when people say, I just give up. There's no, my vote don't count. It's pointless to vote. I'm not taking time off from work. I'm not staying up at night and standing in lines. I'm not voting. I disengage. And I'm always pressing people. I said, I get it. I understand. But, man, when you do show up and vote, when the numbers are up, when people surge in just the numbers, when the numbers are high in an election, the fraud sticks out it shines like a light. When very few people vote, it makes fraud easy. It makes rigging elections easy and unperceivable. It's when there's a huge turnout that this fraud just sticks out. So, yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, it's corrupt and it's broken. But for those of us that are still out there fighting, please show up and vote. Right? And shake the apple cart as best you can. If you think your vote's not being counted properly, put in a written, provisional ballot. Well, not provisional. You want to avoid provisional. You only count those when it's close. But write in your candidate, because those are hand counted. Check that out. When you go to the polls, even if your candidate's name is up there and you can circle a dot around it, all right, right down underneath there where they got one for write in that candidate. Those have to be hand counted. It's real easy to say flip this dot to that dot when you see a dot, but when you don't see a dot there and you got to write in, it has to be hand counted. What else we got on my list? Yeah, I don't even want to talk about the Grammy Awards. I didn't watch them. I saw a couple of little clips that snuck on social media. But man, what sad, pathetic little perverts they are. Now, that's just the way I feel about almost all of them from Hollywood right now, except for the very few that are sounding the alarm about the child predators there. There's only a few. And God bless them, and may they just break that wide open. But the rest of these people are so entitled. They just feel that they're so much greater than us. And really, I just want them to shut the hell up, make your movies and entertain me, and then shut your mouths. I don't trust them around kids. I don't want to be their buddies. I don't need any coaching, any life coaching from them. These derelicts and weirdos should not be up there coaching anybody on anything about their lifestyles. They're all pathetic little cries for help. Every last one of them. So, yeah, Mayor Wu, she's one that Holman should come in and arrest too. I am very willing to work with anybody in this state who actually wants to help connect the illegal aliens here with ICE. I am free to openly declare that I am not conspiring with or complicit with the criminal incentives of Michelle Wu. By most of us in the state, she's viewed as a danger. That her comrades that she's conspired with in the governor's office are equally as dangerous. That we do not subscribe to their way of thinking, and we're willing. I'm willing to work with anybody who would like to identify and locate and associate with ICE every single illegal alien that I come in contact with. I'm willing to help get rid of the illegal aliens. And I want my government to know that I am not associated with these insurgents. All right? I'm not going to, just because Mayor Wu declares these places a sanctuary, doesn't mean that we, the people, have to allow it. It doesn't look like ICE is scared anyway, so they literally came in the next day and arrested an illegal alien right in Wu's neighborhood. So you can kiss our star-spangled ass. But the trend with New York, 13th state to allow medical assistance in suicide, and the name of the act for those that want to look it up, Medical Aid in Dying Act is what it's called. It's not the role of government. Government is supposed to protect and save life. Doctors are supposed to relieve suffering and protect life and not take it. So lots of problems. Doctors should be delicensed, not allowed to practice. If you're going to kill people, if you're going to give them vaccines known to kill, things like that, they should be losing their licenses for real. Not threatening doctors who say, well, maybe we should back off. Maybe, we should try something different. Maybe this should be tested. They're taking their licenses away and they shouldn't. I'm going to get going. I got things that I got to do this afternoon. Sorry about the late start as always. I had some technical snafus that were holding me up here, but I figured them out. Called up my buddy Steve down in Texas, took my call, got me straightened out, and I'm back broadcasting again. I don't know what it is. There's some weird updates. Who knows? All this AI going on. What's getting into our computers nowadays. But I recommend being careful. All right? Be very, very careful out there. I don't trust a lot into my system at all. And they're always snooping. This AI stuff. I hate it. I really do. I tried my best to accept that it's here and think about the positive ways it could be used. And, nothing's special anymore. Think about it. Because I just love those, or used to love those little clips that would come across our social media of, animal stuff in particular often gets me, or little things with little babies and whatnot, that were cute, and, animals are doing very odd things. And it's just a special gift to be at the right place at the right time to capture it on video. And once in a while that happens, and then you share it out. And those things are special because you just don't see it every day. And now, absolutely anything that your mind could imagine, an AI engine can create. Hence, nothing is special anymore. Yeah, you could tell an AI engine, make me a beautiful sunset and include these types of colors and those types of trees, and, really tailor it to be perfect and even beyond what you might expect. Not maybe, but definitely beyond what you might expect in real environment situations. Like I said, it's no longer special. Very bothersome. I think we're going to be so callous that, whatever, nothing is real anymore. All emotions can be tweaked and changed artificially based on this software code. That's really all it is. It's software thinking for itself and trying to make visual our requests. And not just visual or anything. They're writing college papers, and the colleges and schools are trying to figure out how to counter this. And of course they do. They take the paper and run it through and ask AI, is this paper been created by AI? It's a cat and mouse game. I think that AI, the positive sides of it, to just talk about some of them. I mean, think about it from a medical point of view. If you knew as an individual, had all the available tests that could be done on your genetics and your blood chemistry and, your height, your weight, and contributions. You could have AI looking through your entire family history of medical issues and what have you, and actually ask AI, tailor me a diet. What is all my biological situation? What is my biological environment? And what is the best diet for me? If I got sick, what would be the best treatment for me? And I think AI could do a slam banging job of that. And they say, well, you're a 60-year-old male, you're 5'10", 150 pounds, or, and these are the conditions we were able to find that plagued your family tree. Whether it was cancers or dementia or whatever, things that, our lifestyles might be able to change or alter. Just learning what foods to avoid and what foods to eat may be able to solve a lot of the conditions. I know there's people that are diabetic when they have type 2 diabetes. You can do away with all your medical interventions and the pills and everything you got to take and live normally simply by changing your diet. Totally diet related. And AI could do those great things quite easily. We got that technology out there, sensors that we can wear in our wristwatch that tell us our vital signs. Doing a blood test to find out what your nutrient load is, what things that you're deficient in. And AI could turn around and suggest a food. Not maybe even vitamin supplements, who knows? But I'd be willing to bet that almost everything that would suit us best for what we need at that point in time in our life, AI could probably determine. Here's a grocery list for you. Try this out. At the same time, AI has already been used by the government, the IRS in particular, and is spidering everyone's bank account. There's no bank account out there that government AI spiders haven't gone through. And the banks will admit that if you ask them. All right, they're not hiding that anymore. Can an AI be replicated? Like, we're finding out with these self-replicating things, carbon-based things that are being put in vaccines and in food and air supplies and whatnot. They're self-replicating and self-building where they can form new things inside your body. How can those be later taught or instructed to interact with AI? And at those days where we used to talk about and ponder about and say, oh, how ridiculous it would be for government to, insert, implants into your eyes so that they can, see what you're seeing. All right. And remote viewers, they called them, people that would be able to see through other people's eyes and hear through other people's ears. That's now here. These little nano things that they're putting in vaccines and in food supplies and all around us could be just being sprayed into the atmosphere and just waiting for us to make contact with it and absorbed into our body, and then instructed through certain wavelengths and uh, to start constructing things. Maybe to go to your eye nerve and just I want you to attach to your eye nerve and form a transmitter and begin transmitting. So they literally see what you see. They didn't have to put an implant in you. They just had to put in some small nanoparticles. They built the transmitter themselves. They became a transmitter. All right, well, maybe we saw all we need to see. So now let's go back and we'll go into the blood flow and we'll go and attach to eardrums and form a transmitter. That's the type of stuff they're talking about today. Because you already can see and hear, they just got to figure out a way, rather than just your brain picking it up, that they can intercept that. All right, that's where it's going right now. I'm sorry, folks, but that's these perverts in government, man. They got to have control. They're sick people. They have to have not just a little control, total control. So I don't know. There are the ones out there right now telling you that you've destroyed the climate, you've grossly overpopulated the planet. Don't think for yourself. Let the news tell you what's going on, because only they can be trusted. And they got a free healthcare system for your overpopulated asses. Yes, indeed. In a healthcare system that's superior, it's going to be cheap. The cost of healthcare is going to go down, and your quality of your healthcare is going to go up. And what was the reality of that promise? The precise, exact opposite. The quality of our healthcare has gone through the floor. You just get ping-ponged around from one specialist to the next, to the next, to the next. They really don't care. They're not about curing you. It's just about, eat all this crap, which will make you congenitively, very ill. You have a lot of chronic and degenerative diseases. It'll keep you back and forth in the doctor frequently. We'll bounce you, ping pong you around like a pinball machine, back and forth to a couple of our specialists to make sure that our insurance scam is paying them off a little bit at a time too, giving them their little commissions. All right, and we'll give you some pills. Yes. And then when you need to manage those horrible side effects, you come back in with your doctor and we'll give you another pill to manage that side effect. And we'll keep the price low because we got this great big insurance scam that'll help out. And, you'll be fine. We're the government and we're here to help. Right? Yeah. They'll take care of you. Done a pretty good job so far. We got new suicide pods coming to New York. It'll be great. Just climb in, snuff yourself. We'll bury you in your pod and just load up another pod. Who's sad? All right, who broke their leg and is going to have to miss the prom? All right, who lost their free government housing and don't have a place to live? What about you veterans under the bridge? Are you tired of suffering? You getting tired of this cold, rainy, snowy, freezing cold? It's pretty warm in our suicide pods. Check it out. Check it out. Yeah. How about that, Governor Hochul? Maybe you should drop off a bunch of those suicide pods down there in the Somali district. Let them know there might be a problem. No, that's not nice. I shouldn't say that. But you know what is cool? That they got an option right now, which is more than I'd give them. If I were President Trump, I wouldn't have been so nice. But right now, they've got an opportunity. They can download the app because they've been given a free government invasion phone. So they've got a phone. Download the app and self-deport. That's all. Just self-deport. There's a way. Once you're in there, all right, you've identified yourself, said, I'm an illegal. I'm ready to go back home. They will actually give you money All right, this is where I don't really agree with them. I think you've already stolen enough from us. I don't think we owe you anything more. But the government, they've decided if you sign up on the app, they'll give you money, and they will take your whole family. You won't break you up like the Obamas did, where they took dad and he went to one cage, mom to another. Kids off in another direction or trafficked or whatever. No, they'll keep your family together, and they will deport you together. You'll get a free ticket and free transportation home. You'll be repatriated in your own country, and they'll even give you a stipend. Like I said, they'll pay you a little bit. And they promised that, if you do that and reapply correctly, all right, to come into the country, to naturalize the proper way, all right, and then you can come back. I would not do that. If we've got to go to this right now, after all that's been said and done, they've been given some time to leave, and they haven't. I wouldn't be paying them. But, anyone is caught after that, give a date certain. You haven't gotten the phone app and haven't signed up by this date, it's on. We're closing the app down, and you won't be able to sign up. And we're coming to find you. All right, there's not going to be amnesty. And there's bills, and there's talk about that already from Republicans, too. Amnesty. Now, how many times has that happened? 2, 3 times, I believe. I think Reagan maybe was one of the last times, I believe, where it's, I know this horrible mess with immigration. This is horrible. But we've got to fix this. We've got to be fair. We've got to be humane. We stop it. No more after this point. But there's got to be amnesty for the ones that are here. Those poor babies. Oh, those poor babies. We can't be mean to them. This ain't their fault. Yes, it is. It absolutely is. Life's about choices, and you just made a bunch of bad ones. You're the ones that put your family and yourselves and your loved ones into jeopardy. No one else. You made that decision. You put yourself on that highway up here. The caravan. Remember that? All the talk of the big caravan? You sashayed your ass to meet that caravan and come up here. So, yeah, you made bad choices. You're here, and the first thing you did entering this country was a crime, basically. So, yeah, the government's being more than nice. If you're lucky, if you're smart, you'll go find that app. You'll download it, and you'll sign your family right up. You've seen it before in government, and you probably already have seen it. How quickly they can steal wealth and hand it out to others. And here they've openly promised you money and a free transportation. And then will leave open the right for you to come back. If you don't, pick a date. I don't care what, any time's coming up pretty soon. All right, by this spring. All right, first day of spring. If you're not haven't downloaded the app, signed up, and on your way being repatriated in your own country, the app goes down, and we come after you. And by we, that's ICE. That's we the people. And we the people may have to actually get public servants that may call themselves Governor Hochul's and Governor Healy's and, Mayor Wu's and things like that, and arrest them because they appear not to be following the law. They appear to, they're attacking our republic. That's really what it is. They're an enemy of the state. These are people that the war has started. Right? Governor Healy isn't going to come out, with her Glock 19 and begin assaulting you. No. So many battles are intellectual and financial. Right? That's what this is. That they've they're financially draining and collapsing our financial system by giving these illegals everything that they are. They've interfered with commerce by just completely changing the landscape of job creation in the here in the state and across the country. I don't know. The only place for them is jail. There's not gonna be a fix unless many of these governors and mayors and people that came up and supported sanctuary cities are in jail. I remember I was tuned into this pretty early. I think in 2016, I read an article from Edwin Vieira Jr. on a website called News with Views back in 2016. And he warned back then that this whole sanctuary city movement, completely illegal. And he pointed out chapter and verse of Title 8, Section 1324. He pointed out the federal law that was being violated in 2016. That was a decade ago, folks. A decade ago. And back then, they were just quiet about it. You know, there were a few cities here in Massachusetts that did, and we were one of the first ones that experimented with that. And it got through. The people offered their silence, their silent consent. Oh, my gosh. And now look at us. Disgusting. They don't belong here. We don't have to tolerate it. And my only complaint with ICE is that you got to stop about this crap about just arresting, the murderers. Because we want them all gone. Because if you just go and find a couple of murderers, a couple of pedophiles, and granted, every pedophile you grab, God bless you, man. Just don't let them go. All right, don't let them go. Like Newsom. How many did illegals and criminals, too, of all sorts, murderers and child molesters, did he just let go recently in California? Right, not holding them on ICE retainers like they're supposed to. Let them right back out into the population. I know they did it here in Massachusetts. There were child molesters in and molesting kids right in their in the places that they were sending them. All the places they were taking over in the school gymnasiums and soccer fields and community centers. Crying out loud. Even Logan Airport became a stinking little cesspool. Homeless, they're camped out all over the place. Nothing's there's no meaningful change unless those people go to jail. I'm all for rounding up the illegals. They're the ones that are part of the invading army. All right, they're the foot soldiers in this, whether you've been duped or not. It doesn't matter. You're here, you're illegal, you're leaving, you're part of it. But the ones that orchestrated it, the ones that greased the skids for the supply lines, provided the housing and the transportation for their war needs, those criminals go to jail. They don't get a free pass. They don't get amnesty. I smell that in the future because this is so rotten. It's such a gross violation of the law that eventually there's going to be some reckoning that they try to make happen. And man, they're gonna circle the wagons. They're gonna try real hard to seek amnesty for themselves and give me a deal if I rat out this guy. You know what? Screw that. The days of that crap are over because it just doesn't work. You got to go right after them. Strip them of their indemnity liability. Most of these people, we're not making the right complaints. This is something seriously. If you have got a governor that's out of control, any elected official for that matter, say you just got a city councilman or the head of your board of health or whatever, it's completely out of control, violates rights on a regular basis, put in a real formal complaint to their bond holder. All right, get this straight and understand this. Every single public employee, whether you're actually paid or not, if you're elected and you fill a seat in government, any government official that has to take an oath in their clerk's office, and that's pretty much all of them in your city hall or town hall, if they have to be insured against just unreasonable and fishing suits, things like that, for doing their duty. There's always, in other words, there's always someone out there, no matter who you are and how righteous you are in the execution of your job. There's always someone that doesn't like you, that you will just piss off, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it prevents government from just simply being hobbled by that one lunatic that's going to sue you just because, for actually doing your job. This is a protection against that. It's very rare, but it does happen. It can happen, and it can be a strategy too from the outside, is to just, we'll keep suing this guy frivolously until he leaves, until he's gone, and this protects against that. However, when the complaints are real, all right, when it's not frivolous, when you can bring the receipts and say, this is the law, which is clear, these are the facts and the admissions that we have video of, that we have audio of, that we have document after document of, and I'd like to put in a formal complaint against this person. This public official has violated their oath of office, and they are likely to be sued. Now, if you're an insurance company, which is what a bonding agent is they're just an insurance company. Right? Think about it. If you drive out of your driveway, and every week you go uptown and get in a car accident. Right? You tell your insurance company, I got in this car accident, I need to get my car fixed, and they pay and you get your car fixed, and it happens every week. Eventually, you're going to get a love letter from your insurance company saying, we don't want to be your insurance company anymore, and they drop you. When you're a public servant and you go out and you collect a list of formal complaints against conspiracy against rights and for violating the Constitution, and all these threats of lawsuits coming forward, eventually they are unenrolled. They're not going to cover them. There's no politician that's going to get up there and go to a single meeting and vote on a single thing who does not have indemnity coverage. In fact, it's a requirement in government, in town hall, that you be covered. And if you don't, and rates can go up too. Well, believe me, if you become a high risk and you say, hey, listen, you're like the only one in town hall, you've got like an 85% chance of being sued in federal court for what you've done this year. Yeah, as an insurance company, you're going to say, well, we're going to charge you more. All right, you're going to tell your town this one person in this one department has been problematic, and we're going to charge you 10 times more for that policy. That type of stuff happens, or they just say we're not going to cover you. So what does that mean? Well, the town could be have some liability now, but a lot of the liability falls right in the lap of the individual. All right, before they were protected from you taking their house and their vacation home and their cars. Now those things are right up on the old chopping block. So if you have someone in office and they have violated your rights, violated the law, created liability, caused you financial harm, if you've got standing, you can prove what they did. It's not just an allegation that you made up in midair. You can actually prove it with documents. Put in the complaint to their bonding agent. This could be the governor of your state, or it could be, whoever is the chairman of your planning board. It doesn't matter. They're all covered with the same indemnity bond if they're actual good employees, if they're not drawing lawsuits and attention and liability to themselves. The problem is most people don't do that. They bitch and complain a little bit at a public meeting, and when they get gavelled over, that's it. They just go home and business as usual. Continue to abuse and push around other people. You got to put them right into a position where, go ahead, do that again, and you may lose your home. And make the town and make them pay 10 times more for their insurance because they're a constitutional menace. And I'm not saying do these things just to make it expensive or to you know is a dirty trick like the progressives like to do, but do it as a means of finally being constantly vigilant and saying no. No, I'm not going to allow you to abuse me or the community or my neighbors or my town in that way anymore. This is not your job. What you've done is illegal, and I'm putting in a complaint. That's all. That's all this is. I'm not saying make up fake complaints. There's no need to. They're jackasses, and they do these things automatically on their own. It's just about calling them out for it and removing their indemnity. All right? There's no insurance policy. You can go right after them in their private capacity. Who wants to keep doing what they're doing if they are going to lose everything? I don't care if it's Elizabeth Warren, multimillionaire. The woman's a complete nitwit. And she's a multimillionaire. Nasty Pelosi, same thing. All right, functional retard. Yeah, she has enough connections, insider information, for her to make a fortune in insider trading. Her and her husband. He's always getting into gay hammer fights up there. What do you think these guys are just hardworking, committed, hardworking politicians? Got maybe some, side family business that they've been working hard at their whole lives. No. People like them and Chuck Schumer, little scumbags. They've never worked a real job in their life. They got those soft little titty rubbing hands. They ain't seen a hard day's work ever. I don't know. Anyways, that's it. I brought some headlines. Kathy Hochul, 13th state, New York, now euthanizing its citizens. Mirror woo. Fuck woo is what I say. Out there trying to keep her illegal alien community safe and happy. Superbowl, I suggest you do anything. Rearrange your sock drawer today. All right, if you do anything associated with the Super Bowl, look up a list of its advertisers and send them all scathing, nasty letters saying that you no longer support those perverts and that you're not going to patronize them anymore. That'll send the right message, I think. Washington Post seems to be withering and dying on the vine. We'll see what happens there, but it's not looking good for those knuckleheads. Nancy Guthrie. I didn't talk about that yet. Very strange. A ransom note was sent, and they want Bitcoin. It's the mother of Savannah Guthrie, the CBS reporter. I don't know what to think about this. People go missing, and fall into evil hands every day. Why is this sucking all the air out of the room? Savannah Guthrie's mom. It's like a lot of people can't even remember her name. It seems almost like an attempt by the globalists out there to humanize some of these prostitutes. Oh, poor Savannah. Her mommy's missing and stuff. And I'm sorry to sound like I don't care. She's an 80-year-old woman, and she doesn't deserve to be murdered or hurt or anything like that, regardless of anything. It's just not what should happen. But it's not, oh, poor Nancy. It's, oh, poor Savannah Guthrie and her mom who was kidnapped. Why do we feel so bad for Savannah Guthrie? This woman, had everyone have followed her advice, would have led us, like the Pied Piper, right into, she's one of those that hates this country, that hates our Constitution, and has lied to your face about everything from the illegal immigrants, from the plague that is Islam. All of it. She's part and parcel to that horrible abuse of the First Amendment. So I personally don't like her. I'm sorry her mom is in, has been taken. I don't know why. It's sad. It's just as sad as if the poor people that no one knows, who doesn't have a celebrity in their family line, in their family tree anywhere, when they have someone who goes missing, their life is equally as important. Yeah, I just thought it was strange. Nancy Guthrie, who you otherwise would have never known, had any idea who it was. So they don't just talk about the individual Nancy who was missing. It's Nancy, the mother of Savannah Guthrie, yay! And you expect applause and things like that, and fancy thumbnails and pictures of Savannah in the newsroom, and well, who cares? I don't know what's going on, why they kidnapped that woman. But to try to humanize Savannah and the prostitutes is kind of pathetic, and for that reason, I don't care. I hope she comes home and she's safe. I don't know what good or bad she's done in life, but I so don't care about humanizing prostitutes. All right, if you're going to talk about this crime and whatever, talk about Nancy and forget about her daughter, the political whore. Sorry, don't mean to be that callous, but not sorry. That's it. I hope AOC and Harris get together. That would be amusing. I would hope we'd be able to get enough control over the elections so that actual, only the people that are supposed to vote are voting and can vote only once. Because I'm interested to see how close this country is to being taken over. Trust me, once the progressives think that they've got 51% and they can get together and through a majority vote, take your guns, take your kids, take your money and your wealth, take your property, take your freedom, take your privacy, they will. They will. They want total control. Not just a little control. They want total control. I don't know. That's about it. Hey, love and appreciate y'all. Sorry about the late start today. But as always, I will always try to get out there somehow, some way. Enjoy your afternoon. Not watching the Super Bowl. But I can tell you right now, there's going to be some really cool plays by the football players. Maybe a couple bad calls by the referees. Then a whole bunch of blathering perversions. Cultural Marxism. All right. Pedophiles will be up dancing around for you. Indeed. It sounds like fun, doesn't it? Only if you're from Hollywood. Oh, yeah. Boycott them too. All right? They don't deserve your money. They don't deserve your respect. They deserve to just sit there and allow us to point our fingers at them and laugh. That's about it. Love and appreciate y'all. Fly your flags high. Keep your powder dry. Love each other out there. See you soon.